Good morning, friends! We are just outside of Kanchanaburi, Thailand today. We are going on a little bit of an adventure, and we are taking this mighty steed right here. Ah yes, the Kawasaki Versys-X 300cc motorbike. Lovely. It's actually less cc's than my bike, but more horsepower, so I think we're gonna have a little bit of fun. It's a little bit lighter, so... And we're going up into the mountains. We're actually going to Hellfire Pass. And Hellfire Pass was the deadliest point for the POWs and the conscripts when they built the death railway. So 100,000 people died in the building of the 425-mile death railway. More people died cutting this pass than anywhere else. It's brutal. The ride up there is going to be amazing. We're going to go for a hike. It's going to be sick. I can't wait for you guys to come. Come on, let's go. I'm so excited. I haven't been on a motorcycle in months. I'm so excited. Let's go, let's go. This is my helmet. It doesn't fit. I'm going to die, but I brought gloves. All right, let's go. And we have made it to the Australian government-funded Hellfire Pass Interpretive Centre. So this interpretive centre is a museum and a trail that follows some of the hardest parts of the death railway, or the most difficult, the most costly inhuman lives to finish. A lot of Australians died here, so hence the Australian government covers it. But what we're looking at here is the river is way out there, the Kwai. Burma, Myanmar, is 24 kilometers over there, so right past the mountains. The start of the railway is 165 kilometers that way. And then Bangkok is over here, I believe. No, Bangkok is also over there. And Yangon is over here. Yep, so the end of the railway is 250 kilometers that way. And these are where the cuttings are. So the cuttings were known, it's the Hintok cuttings, it's where the men had to carve out of the rock, basically with hammer and chisels. So it's a somber place, really, really cool though. So I'm excited. Let's go learn more about it. Come on. So this site's been open since the mid-80s, funded by the Australian government, and the whole Hellfire Pass area had been reclaimed by the jungle for over 40 years at that point. So in the early 80s, those veterans, a lot of Aussies, because face it guys, like Aussies are the best. It's Aussies and Dutch that, you know, died here the most, and those are like the two best white people. I'm gonna get in trouble for saying that, but what, I'm joking, but not joking at all, but joking. Those veterans they wanted to come back, the POWs, you know, I think they probably wanted to bring their families. Like, can you imagine the trauma of being held captive in the jungle and having all of your friends die? Yeah. So the old dudes started coming back. The old bucks started coming back. They built this center. Very, very cool. Because this is an Australian-funded operation, it's a little safe by Thai standards. To get to the Hellfire Pass cutting is just down here. I think that's where most people go. But then to get to the Hintok cutting, which is further down, which is where they had to go through the mountain again, it's a 2.5 kilometer walk. But they make you bring a walkie-talkie if you're gonna go for the 2.5 kilometer walk. So I think that tells you the age of a lot of the folks that are maybe coming to visit Hellfire Pass. It's really nice. So what were the Japanese doing here? Why were they building a railway in 1942? Well, at the beginning of the war, Japan quickly took over Southeast Asia. You know, things happen relatively quickly. They had forces in Burma. They wanted to get to Thailand. They wanted that open corridor. So the Thai government had been aware that this was an area that could have used a railway crossing. It was just deemed it was not going to happen. It was too difficult. There was too many passes. There were too many bridges. It wasn't going to happen. But in 1942, the Japanese had a need to make this railway, and they had access to hundreds of thousands of POWs. Because in the beginning of the war, they went in, they took the Dutch East Indies, they took Singapore. They've got all these Brits, they've got all these Dutch soldiers, Americans that had surrendered in the Philippines early on, they had them. So in the building of this death railway, the 420 kilometers, it's estimated that 12,500 prisoners of war from Britain, Australia, the Netherlands, and America died cutting into these rocks. But what is more harrowing, and it's equally more so, we cannot forget that 90,000 conscripted laborers died building this railway as well. So that's 90,000 Burmese and Thai laborers that were treated horribly by the Japanese. And I don't mean to be saying like Japanese, no, by the occupying forces. Not because they're Japanese, just occupying forces suck. Occupying forces are nasty. All occupying forces really suck. Yeah. One of the reasons that so many of the local conscripted workers died en masse, as opposed to the POWs, who of course still suffered immensely at 12,500 dead, was the POWs had their doctors with them. So they had their military doctors, they had civilian doctors, they had healthcare. And they might have come into it in better condition. As a young man in the military right before the war, you would have been in better condition to come into 150 days straight of 18-hour labor. That's what these men were working with. When the Japanese were afraid that the British were going to be coming in, that they were going to come in through the Gulf of Thailand. They wanted to have the troops from Burma into Thailand. So they did a push for 150 days. While the conscripted laborers, they're known as the Ramusha collectively, they didn't have access to the same health facilities and the same health professionals that the POWs did. They did have, for the most part, more familiarity with tropical diseases and just working in the heat and the monsoon. So if you grow up in the monsoon, you grow up around malaria, it's a little bit easier than when you had the Europeans come. And we're in the dry season right now. This is middle of the dry season. There's been burning. But during the wet season, it rains and rains, and it doesn't ever stop raining, and it's wet all the time, and there's bugs everywhere. And it's like 96 now, 96 Fahrenheit. But this is even the hot season. So imagine the hot season, what these guys are dealing with. This cutting and the Hintop cutting were made by teams of men just with a chisel and a hammer. Bang, 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 bang. Enough until you can get some dynamite in, blow it up. This is hard rock. This is not, I mean, it doesn't come harder than this. We have a Canadian, Aussies, Kiwis. Is Burma-Thailand Railway, 1942-1945, in remembrance of all those who suffered and all who died. So here, Thai safety standards, these are not. If you have a radio, plenty of water, and sturdy shoes, you can continue to walk to the Hintop Road. I have all those things. You don't leave home without your Vans. They're your do-it-all footwear. You can go in a bat cave, you can ride motorbikes, you can go hiking, you can just walk in the city for 18 miles a day. What can't you do in a pair of high-top Vans? It is 1:45. You have to be back at the station by 4. And they say that for this 5K out and back to allow for 3 hours, that's not going to take me that long. But it is like the terrain's not great, so I can see why they say to take a little bit longer than normal. So we're going to turn around at 3 o'clock. The Kwai Noi Valley. So the Kwai Noi is, there's the Kwai Yai, the Kwai Noi. They're both River Kwais, but it comes just down here. So this part of the railway goes above the Kwai Noi, the whole thing does. But the camps were way down there. So where the guys were sleeping and where all their supplies were was way down by the river, and they had to haul it all up here, which I just can't imagine. Like, this just would have sucked, right? Like, And here I am like, oh, it's hot and I didn't eat, and because I was too excited to ride my expensive motorbike, so I didn't eat. Yeah, I didn't have to fucking build a railroad. We're kids these days. We're just not tough anymore. For the most part, the POWs only had what they were captured in. So they had their uniforms that they were captured in. And that may have lasted until they got here. But as soon as you got here, it was so moist and so hot. And just, you know, you're working all day. Your body's so disgusting that their clothes literally, they just fell apart. Their boots fell apart. Their clothes fell apart. So they worked in loincloths. You had skeletized men in loincloths. Very, very strange. You can imagine the hammer and chisel. Just thousands of men. Hammers and chisels. Clank, 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 clank. At least on the battlefield, you get to die on your feet. Sometimes. And there's no good death. There's no good death, but wow, the Hellfire Pass Interpretive Center, man, and the cuts and the railway and full on. A couple hours, I am absolutely exhausted. I am covered in sweat. I'm disgusted. Imagine 150 days straight of chiseling and hammering and chiseling and hammering with just rice to eat. Really, really brutal. Always good to remember that there are no good guys in war too. Like, there's nothing good about this. And we need sites like this to remind us of why. So I'm gonna get back on this because we're having fun on it. It's a little peppy. It's not as torquey, but again, I don't really know what that means. But I've enjoyed it quite a bit. A little lighter than my bike, but comfy, maneuverable. Not as high. It's like an inch lower. Suspension's not as good. And does it have a thumper in it? It does. It's got a single in it too, so the clutch is kind of... I've had a lot of fun with it. The interpretation center was great. I'm gonna put that crappy GoPro back on my chest so you guys can get some more crappy views like this, I think is all that you see. You can see how not fast I'm going. I love you so much. I'm gonna check out some caves or something on the way, but I'll give you some more beautiful landscapes. I really appreciate you watching this. Seek out more information. I'm gonna link like a real documentary below, okay? From like somebody that really knows what they're doing and can give you information you can trust, all right? But I love you and they don't, so never forget that. I don't know you, but I love you anyway, all right? Goodbye.